Let's begin by paying our respects to Ajahn with 3 bows. Bow.
It's wonderful to have you here, Ajahn. We have got many people here from all over the world. And if it's convenient for the people around here, if you could turn on the video so that Ajahn can see who you are and have a connection as he's speaking with you. So there's some familiar faces. I think Ajahn will recognize some of them. Your dear friends from Malaysia, from UK, from India, and from Australia.
Okay. Oh, it's so many. I cannot really so quickly see, but very nice. Nice to meet you all. And yeah, it's my first opportunity to be with the group in Singapore. And please, take the time to relax into Dhamma. And I think Peter wanted to say a few things still, was it? No? Okay.
We would like to invite you to begin the session, Ajahn.
Okay. Sadhu, sadhu. So we begin by chanting Namo Tassa together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. So good afternoon or good day, wherever people are in the various locations. Before we start with our Dhamma session or Dhamma presentation, you're welcome just to quickly go into silence for a moment and close your eyes, and we'll do about 10 minutes of meditation. I'll just talk a little bit in order to make sure that we feel like we are changing atmosphere from where we are coming from and settling in. So to be sitting meditation, to be standing or lying down, possibly also walking, we very firmly remind ourselves that now we lay down all the other business. We come to the breath or whatever other meditation object we choose and firmly establish ourselves in the present moment. So this is always important that we make a determination before, that we don't cling to things that have already happened, that we don't proliferate, anticipate, or wish for things in the future, that we take the chance going to our breath as a means of staying in the present. And in my room it's very quiet. I believe in your room it will also be quiet, and there will be not many disturbances. But if there is anything, we just let it come in and go out again. We just let it pass. So this is the art of meditation, is just to stay in the present moment. And we don't need to worry much about what will happen. All we try is to come back to the present. Try not to react with our mind towards any thoughts or any ideas. Bring them back to the meditation word that we usually use, Buddha or Buddho. When we breathe in, use Buddha, and when we breathe out, use the word Tho. So the time before settling into meditation is very important for making the change of atmosphere from having been doing all kinds of things, then to just really say, Now we're not doing anything special, just establishing our awareness on the breath and repeating a meditation word, Buddha. And I'll do the same now for a few minutes, and then I'll silently start speaking again gradually, and we'll come back to the Dhamma talk. Carefully check whether we're still with the breath, in case there's any kind of distraction. Just go back, gently resting on the breath, enjoying the rhythm of the breath, not changing the length, just being happy and feeling what is happening when we're breathing. Dhamma in Ajahn Chah's way is always something about being natural. So we naturally sit in the breath in the position that we're comfortable and let the breath just flow naturally without any feeling of changing anything, and take the breath as our base, as our home, as our way of feeling what is happening through the breath with the breathing, and using the meditation word Buddha can be a reminder that imagine the awareness of the Buddha is what we're practicing right now. With every breath, we feel that we're fully aware, fully taking in the breathing and letting it go again. We can pay particular attention to the turning points of the breathing. Sometimes the mind just needs some focus and needs some way of tuning into something, and the simple rhythm may not just be enough. So we try to recognize what's happening at the beginning and at the ending of the breath. we gradually come back and open our eyes, and I'll start the Dhamma. Just a little bit of like cooling down before we start, taking in new input. You're welcome to open your eyes and have a look on the screen. And I'd like to again welcome you to the Zoom session today, and hope that we can maintain the Dhamma in the various places that we are and find skillful means for that. And I like to be creative myself because I also have quite a lot of external activities, and many times I need to adapt to things that were unexpected or change locations. Today is actually quite pleasant. I can just be here and not go anywhere. So thanks for visiting. But like, yeah, what do we do if we have a life which needs a lot of change of activities, change of postures? So one thing is what we just did right now. Like we just slowed down and made a point of saying, okay, next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, let's just come back to doing nothing, just being very, very free from any activity other than what is already happening naturally. The breathing is like an anchor for our life wherever we go. So we can always use that and use the awareness of the breathing also in certain activities. When speaking, it's not so easy. But even then, every now and again to pause, or while speaking with somebody, also to listen, and you can go back to the breathing as well. Or the opportunity when one sits in a car, or the underground, or in a train, or plane, or then one can use the breathing as well. Just not feeling particularly strange, because these days people probably, quite a lot of people doze off while they're going to work, and we are not dozing off, we're wide awake. Actually, we're going deep inside sometimes for a moment, and we're refreshing ourselves with that. So incremental little bits and pieces of meditation is a very, very beautiful thing to do, because it brings one in a context where one isn't carried away by things. So staying in the present is easily said, but if we have like certain rituals or little tricks that we use for that, then it's maybe not too difficult to not fall prone to the pulls of sensuality, the pulls of anger, or the pull of like somehow like feeling distracted and not with the thing that one is doing. So we all know like a little bit about Ajahn Chah. Obviously, I've seen how many of the Ajahns are giving a talk in this month, in the months of the Pansa. So you're well aware with the idea of joining the meditation from the formal sessions that we have to the informal sessions. And I believe many times we just have to really give ourselves a special moment of recognizing what is happening and recollecting, okay, now I'm not just doing my normal business, now I'm doing it particularly aware. The monks, for example, when we go on alms round, we have the idea of walking quietly, and we walk barefoot. So that's already something that supports it. And obviously, if you have to walk from some place to the next, from one office building to the next, or maybe even in a park, you have to make a special effort and tell yourself, like, now basically I'm going to experience what I'm doing. Experience the walking, experience the steps, and if you like, you can use the breath as well. I'm a fan of then changing to the rhythm of the feet, of the steps, instead of just simply taking the breath. I just use another rhythm, which sometimes falls in sync with the breathing, but many times it's got its own, say, kind of life. And so the idea of then using Buddha while walking, I've already done when I was like in Berlin and at university. I picked up this idea from the forest tradition. They do Buddha wherever. So like Nupuman and Dhamma, they emphasize very much like wherever you are, just Buddha, Buddha. And obviously it's not so quite easy, particularly if you're walking with other people or you meet somebody or you have to finish something. But I found it incredibly refreshing, this just little anchor of Buddha in between. And also Buddha is a very beautiful word. It's like, it's the Buddha, basically. It's like something very special. And definitely I felt quite uplifted. But then suddenly things get, again, mechanical, and we can forget that actually it's a means to stay in the present. We start wandering off again. You probably know all the say, little tricks that the mind plays, and it's so easy not to be there. But yeah, we try to be creative, and have a sense of like in some periods of the day we definitely can slow down and definitely can reserve times for ourselves. And yeah, like incremental little meditation sessions, like maybe in the morning a little bit, in the evening a little bit, maybe even in the afternoon. It depends on your work and your job. But like I feel many times like meditation is like coming back to some very, very beautiful inner experience. This is like meditation or mindfulness in the sense of recollection. For example, many of us have had very inspiring experiences in various temples, or maybe meeting senior monks or nuns, or going to holy sites and being very, very inspired by that, and feeling that, oh, in such places or on such occasion, the mind actually very quickly becomes centered and deep. And yeah, like this is like special feeling, special experience. And obviously there's a lot of faith then engaged. When we go to a place, like I like to go to Phat Phnom on the Mekong River. I find it's very powerful, and but if I go too often, then the effect wears off. So I need to really constantly take it serious in that sense, not grim, but serious in that I see like, oh yeah, this is very special opportunity. And to then have the feeling of now when I'm putting all my energy into awareness, into mindfulness, that then this is like a very enjoyable and very, very unconditioned experience. It's like just comes and you just dive into it. I'm pretty sure many of you have had experiences where you feel like very, let's say, fulfilled or like very uplifted by meditation. And then other times it becomes stale and automatic. Obviously, sometimes we're not really in the present, not really seeing the special, say, beauty of even the word Buddha or Buddha. Then I feel like it's very nice to really recollect not only the word Buddha or Buddha or other meditation words, but the feeling and the experience. So imagine you were in your favorite location, or imagine, suppose you've been able to sit on a retreat and it was very, very uplifting at one of the sessions. Can you or can we recollect this feeling and allow ourselves to access this feeling just like we did before? Can we just imagine, for example, I would imagine I'm sitting in Phat Phnom at the Mekong River and the birds are singing. It's not exactly quiet there, but it's powerful. Can I imagine the feeling of being aware of the good energy that can arise when closing one's eyes, when sitting down? And sometimes maybe we need to play a little bit around with our recollection, with our memories, and go back to something that we really enjoyed and settle into that. So for me, like meditation is many times a question of finding skillful means. One of them is recollecting past beautiful experiences, past inspiration, as if it was there right now. For example, like I mentioned Patappanom, obviously in India there's many places where you can feel very, very uplifted. For example, when you're sitting, when one sits in under the Bodhi tree, and one has got the feeling now everything counts. Now is a special opportunity, and then there's a certain experience that I'm sure we can recollect or revive. So this would be one of the things, like, why not sit in the underground I'm not sure whether there is an underground in Singapore. There is, I think. And maybe there's also above ground trains, or whether you're sitting in a traffic jam in Bangkok, for example. Why not just kind of go on a little journey and do Buddho, but take it to the heart in the same way as it used to be on other occasions. Or when people come to Wat Banana Chat, in the beginning everybody feels, oh, this is so peaceful, amazing, so many monks and so forth. And then sure enough, after some time it becomes very normal. So then to revive or recycle the feeling of like that one first initially felt when one was like really inspired by the whole setting, the opportunity. Then other skillful means that I feel are important when we meditate during our daily life, sometimes really seeing where we are at. So for example, just now, these 5 minutes that we sat down was perfectly all right. Like just like everybody's come together. It's a certain, for me also a certain inspiration to see so many people, and also feel that this really matters, that we come together. So there's an uplift, and even though it's only 5 minutes, it can actually go quite deep and change our relationship to what's happening in a very, very profound and tangible way. So the other extreme is that we actually cannot really tune into a situation. We actually really, say, agitated by something. It can also be something that we are not really consciously aware of. Like, for example, there's some deadlines that one has to finish something. Even monks, sometimes we have to finish a certain email that has been pending, which is really a pain, actually. Some difficult conversation is pending, or like there's the aftermath of some emotional reaction that one wasn't so proud of. So sometimes, like, it's also possible just to change the atmosphere, and using then, for example, chanting or recollection of the Dhamma, or even memorization of the Dhamma. Some of our monks, they learn the Patimokkha, and when you have to learn the Patimokkha by heart, basically you need to immerse yourself in the flow of these words. And also it's a nice combination of having mindfulness and having a certain amount of like letting go at the same time. So you have to let it flow at the same time. You have to know exactly where you are. So it's that's a skillful means for the monks and nuns, for example, to go into a longer memorization. But maybe for us, like in lay life, just a simple chant, or you're maybe familiar with some of them already, and then just to go through them in your mind. It doesn't have to be loud, but it can just be a help to change one's mindset, change one's atmosphere, inner atmosphere. For example, I usually use Buddho for meditation, and then when we chant the Itipiso, which is one of the most devotional chant, very much charged with all the opportunities of doing pilgrimages, and also in various chanting sessions with others on auspicious occasions. For example, Itipiso is so to say one of the heart chants that we use. So I noticed that I'm actually quite easy with Buddho and Buddhanusati, to go through the qualities of the Buddha and imagine the Buddha as a human being and put myself in that mindset of the Buddha is real. He's like a teacher. He's like a beautiful human being, and he's got these wonderful qualities. So this is something that most of us probably have experimented with, going to the Buddha. You can say go for refuge, or going to recollect the Buddha. So the sarana has got the root, the word sarana has got the root of to recollect as well. So we go to the Buddha for refuge, and then go through the Dhamma qualities. And in the Dhamma, it's also very beautiful. There's so many aspects. We can actually contemplate the beauty of the Dhamma in itself. For example, things like the emphasis of Ajahn, that the Dhamma is just about nature. It's nothing about anything fabricated. It's just the way nature is in itself. And to go back to that feeling of the, let's say, all-encompassing Dhamma that is everywhere, that the Dhamma is just like something very authentic, truthful, and quality of sincerity, and quality of an honest encounter. If one has to deal with human beings, for example, the truthfulness, or the Dhamma is everybody is just the way he or she is, like Dhamma. Some of the phrases that we've heard from Luang Por Sumedho, there is actually in Wat Panarachat, there's a sign that has been kind of making its tour from various prominent trees to the dyeing shed where it was about to be burnt, and then it was taken back to the bowl drying shed because somebody liked it so much. It just says the way it is. You can literally hear Luang Por Sumedho saying it, the way it is. And then you kind of feel that energy of here's somebody that tells me that's just the way it is. Or recollecting the Dhamma in terms of explicitly then going to the various facets of the Dhamma, for example, as an exercise of changing one's feeling around what is happening, just to go through the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta or the key teachings, or just thinking about the Noble Eightfold Path, or any other group of Dhammas that you can remember. So again, some of the monks and nuns are a bit at an advantage because some of us have actually studied these things or gone through long lists. I don't know whether you have that kind of practice in your group as well, going through Dhamma lists, for example. Very beautiful Dhammas in the Anguttara Nikaya. There's for example, 7 qualities of a beautiful friend, or something like that, or the 10 ways of making merit. This very popular commentarial list in Thailand. And as I have to give a lot of Dhamma talks, I sometimes use these lists, but they come alive and they have a certain feeling to them. So when I go through them on a distracted afternoon or evening, then I recollect all these little bits of pieces of relating to things outside in a different way, triggered by the various qualities of Dhamma, for example. So Dhammanusati. And then Sanghanusati, obviously you can imagine encounters with beautiful human beings that are practicing very deeply, whether male, female, whether monastic or lay, people that are emanating Dhamma, or that we call the Sangha. The Arya Sangha is obviously very, very special in one way, and we shouldn't say make this too black and white, but maybe you find some Arya Dhammic qualities even in other practitioners or in other monastics or in teachers, even in other say practitioners of other sects. So you can say even go to be inspired by a Christian role model. So this is like being creative, in terms of Sangha-nusati, we go to the qualities of the Buddha Dhamma being embedded deeply in a human being. And then we rejoice in the opportunity to see this and experience this. Again, recollecting maybe encounters of monks and nuns and very spiritually, say, prominent situations. Sangha-nusati can also be to recollect how, for example, the big circumambulation in Wat Pah Pong. Obviously, that's all Sangha, but not everyone is an Arya Sangha, obviously. But like just the beauty of so many samanas all together and the uplift it does. So such an image or such a recollection and can help us like to Sangha-nusati, so we can fill it with life. So we've got Buddho, Dhammo, Sangho. And so that's already very good for a change of atmosphere. And we can do chanting with it, maybe the Itipiso or even the simple morning and evening chanting. So like other skillful means and change of atmosphere, going right to the heart and practice metta bhavana. Like when the world is just such a mess right now, and one is so, I would say, disheartened by what's happening, like either from the news or from the quality of, say, the tourists that stop over here, or like even younger people that you were expecting much more deaths somehow, and you feel like, oh my goodness, what's happening here? Then to go back to the feeling of, no matter what, this is samsara, and how I do something good about it, about the samsaric dukkha inherent with all these people and all these problems and all these tendencies and politics and crisis and war, is many times simply go back to one's own heart and imagine that we have this powerful source of goodness in ourselves that we can, without any conditions, just give away. So first we have to feel it, and that's already a very powerful recollection. So knowing generally how metta feels, but then having it present and bringing it right into one's chest or heart area. So that's already, if we do that only for the whole session that we want to do meditation, if we just completely immerse ourselves with metta without ever thinking about like, am I going to send it to the postman or postwoman, or am I going to send it to my little kid or so in front of its smartphone, basically. Like, don't have to go that far. You can just first of all feel it and make this change of atmosphere in one's own heart, and then feel it with these qualities we know, and that we will do at the very end of our session. We'll do the metta chant in English, and also the dedication of merit chant. So if we feel we're, say, pulled down by the world, pulled down by samsara, and another bad news, another bad election result from Germany, for example, like basically pulled down by politics shouldn't happen for monks. But like we live in a very globalized world, so what to do? Like, yeah, or like just imagine how many Israeli monks we have in our sangha. It's something we cannot just say, so doesn't matter, we're monks. We've got father and mother of fellow samanas here that are suffering and moving houses because of the wartime there. And so when we are a bit down and hopeless in that sense, or like feeling maybe even angry, so going back from some place where people weren't really very respectful, and then feel like what's happening to society? It's all because of the smartphones, all because of the computers and so forth. It's just maybe better to change the atmosphere and go back to the heart and say, okay, like let's sit down and do metta meditation rather than feeling restless or averse. And if all we do is like for that whole period that we want to sit or walk. Actually, metta also works while walking. and maybe even works over the TV screen. I'm not sure. And anyway, it's boundless, so it shouldn't be conditioned to a specific, say mode. Like if we can sit and really feel metta for the beauty of metta itself, then the application and the, so to say, Judeo-Christian imperative, you have to give it to somebody else. And like for your neighbors and so forth, you can do that, but it comes automatically. It comes after having had it in your heart, and it spills out. It's a spillover effect, I believe. So we can indulge in feeling metta. And what I particularly like with metta bhavana is this chant that we sometimes do. It's also quite musical. It's the metta sahagatina chant. Those that come to the monastery every now and again probably know, like it's the four boundless qualities, metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha, and it spreading them in the four directions, above and below, around and everywhere. Whether in English or in Pali, it's all the same. You're spreading the same metta, whether it's English or Pali, doesn't matter. I like the Pali because it's just kind of like having been kind of, I like music basically. I used to like music, and basically it's just kind of fun. So this is one of the most more say musical chants for me. So I'm good then in a good mood, and then the idea just simply to be using this opportunity going through the chant in a few minutes, and there's some instructions there. In the first direction, second direction, left, right, up, and below. I don't know why I've got this idea to the front, to the back, left, right, and left. It could also be clockwise, or you can start from, or just go along with what the chant says. But the feeling is there's something I'm being asked to do. I have to actually on the spot be able to recollect what is metta. God, bring it out, put it there. So it's like helps me change my mood. And then karuna is slightly different. I think of all the beggars in Bodh Gaya basically with one hand, one foot. Oh, it's just like, and then so basically like compassion, or like a feeling of being there with a big sigh and a big hug, so to say, for all the samsaric distress, and that feeling of like karuna. What's the difference between metta and karuna? Even that slight little change gets my mind into the qualities of these things, and rather than doing the same, kind of like meditation technique all the time, I like to have that creativity, and then being able to just quickly come up with an appropriate little nuance and as a variation. So metta, karuna, very close to each other. In fact, many times we don't even know what's the difference, I would say. Mudita, like, it's obviously a very prominent feeling, and yet we're so many times kind of jealous or competing or falling into a one-upmanship or one-up-womanship, maybe. Like this kind of stuff is just so ingrained in our habits that we don't have mudita. So quickly pull the mudita card out of your heart and put it up to the front, left, right, front, back, left, right, and up and below, and then everywhere. And this is quite fast, like this chant. It's just kind of a rap type of chant. And then upekkha, and then most of us actually don't really relate any prominent quality to upekkha, obviously, because it's upekkha. It's not like nothing, say, stands out or so. But I'm fortunate enough, like, to every now and again got the opportunity to meet some monks that I feel are very equanimous, like a lot of dukkha, and I come to them and I try to kind of quickly describe my problem, and they're just saying Dhamma, that's normal. And just that reaction already brings it back. Oh yeah, upekkha. Could I forget the main quality of one of Papong monks, Lompaliam? Basically, I just think, okay, what Lompaliam do? Upekkha. So, but then the thing is, like, can you just kind of throw out upekkha to the front, to the back, left and right? The Buddha says you should, basically, you should have it everywhere. So that's a real job to do then within not many seconds, and then it goes back to metta again, karuna, mudita, upekkha. So this, sometimes I do that when I get kind of distracted and just go through this particular chant, and I like this kind of mental gymnastics. You do something to the front, to the back, left, right, and it's like exercise, like aerobics, Brahma-vihara aerobics. So, and it's in real time. It's like there's somebody kind of like telling you what to do. It's a guided meditation. So that's somehow I use the chanting in this way. Also, there's usually there's something that one can think of where like there's an urgent need to react to with a certain Dhamma or so. For example, we've had this spell of funerals in Wat Banana. I don't know what's happening, but people keep dying all the time. It's really weird. Like we've had like 4 or 5 in a row at the beginning of the Pansa, and now it's starting again. And so it's literally one side of the street, next side of the street, like all relatives and all very important. And we have the like constant need to do the ceremonies of a funeral. But when there's a funeral, then and you're facing old age, sickness, death, basically, you might as well face it and not just go through the motions and do another chant and forget about the implications, actually. So it's also a great kammatthana then to think about the urgent necessity to deal with death. It could be that we know somebody or are fearing that somebody is going to die, or obviously thinking about ourselves. So Marananasati is also very, very important part of the more active meditations. And like the idea of using one's recollective qualities, but taking into the feeling of like, how does it feel if you're really sad because somebody has died? Sometimes it maybe not even a human being, but even a cat sometimes makes people really, really sad, and there's a big change and a feeling of loss, and then to feel it and try to live it through. And so we have Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha, and then Marananusati. You can guess which one is missing still. Obviously, Asubha. Yeah, like thinking about the body contemplation, seeing the body as not self, seeing the body as not so particularly great and attractive and to be enamored with. So seeing the, as we say, the asubic sides, that not so beautiful sides of the body. So being able to tune into that and make some thought experiments around this. This is like important that if you do this, like Marananasati and Asubha Kammatthana, that you also do the other ones, like Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati, and also the Brahma-viharas, because since we're worldlings, basically, we have to live with good and bad. And if we only do those bad meditations, basically it can pull us down. So let's do something good as well. For example, thinking about somebody who's got final cancer, and obviously it's in the air. You think about all the chemotherapy, and possibly we've visited him or her, and there's a certain feeling, I've got to do something about it. Then obviously, like the core of the matter is fear of dying and death and oneself in that situation, or the feeling of loss, separation. But it's also, you can also do something positive about it. For example, one of the first chants that I memorized, like for the fun of it, just simply for the fun of it, but I've already forgotten it, so I should just mention this. Actually, forgotten it a long time, but like I can still use the Bhikkhu manuals right in there. So it's the Girimananda Sutta. It's great because the feeling of, if I chant this, no matter whether it's true or not, but I got the feeling I'm doing something positive for somebody who's sick and possibly deadly sick, and I can't really say much because they're in hospital and full of kind of like tubes and machines, but I can still chant the Girimananda Sutta. If they don't let me do it in the hospital, or it's too long for the hospital, then chant the Bhujangas. But Girivananda Sutta is even better because like it's got all these recollections, 10 different recollections, and it would take another hour if I went through those now. But every one of them, you know, like it can be actually a real gem. And there's also, funny enough, now this is like the happy ending of this Dhamma presentation, is that it ends up again with Anapanasati. So it comes back to using Anapanasati, and you wonder, like with all these recollections, like when you recollect, say, for example, Anicca Sanya, Anatta Sanya, Asubha Sanya, Bhana Sanya, Viraga Sanya, Nirodha Sanya, and all this stuff, like 10 of them, one after the other. It's like recollection of like impermanence, recollection of the six sense spaces, recollections of the unbeautiful sides, or recollection of all the illnesses that are around, that adinava sanya, for example. If you and like there's a lot of stuff that is really like a kind of object that requires recollection, a theme. And then the last one, the Buddha says anapanasati. And so is anapanasati also a brain exercise to recollect the benefits of breathing or something like that? Well, like I find it's basically a little bit like it's actually quite reaffirming. So if we were doing anapanasati and it would click straight away, basically, then we would just sink into utter peace. Yeah, so basically, there's not much left of the breath very soon, and that kind of thing. You just anapanasati, think of Bodh Gaya, whoops, and there you go into bliss. But if it's not really working. And you can also just go through the 16 factors of anapanasati and say, just imagine you had those. So just tell yourself, what would it be like if I had piti sukha while you're chanting it? What would it be like if you had like viraga or something like that? You know, all these qualities. It is a recollection, 16 facets in there. And I believe the Buddha put it in there because maybe if you do anapanasati in this very, say, genuine, authentic, real life, present moment Dhamma way, then you don't need much 16 steps or so. Basically, it can actually go very deep on even like that when the Buddha talks about it, like sometimes they say on one in-breath or so. But obviously that doesn't work for me. So I use the 16 parts and then occupy myself breathing in and out, and at that same time kind of just suppose I had piti sukha. I know I don't have it, but like suppose I have it, and somehow it actually works every now and again. I mean, it's just like when you're practicing metta bhavana, you say suppose I had metta in my heart right here, and then wow, and then you actually do have it, or you can recollect the quality. So you can go back to that and have that recollection of these qualities. Or like Buddho, and recollect the qualities of the Buddha, and then feel like, it just sounds a bit heretic, but feel like the Buddha. It's just like in some less orthodox circles, that's okay. You can feel like the fully awakened Buddha. Like I'm not boasting and saying this is what always happens, but like it's really worth like experimenting with it. And I believe the quality of using meditation in this way when one is distracted or like isn't kind of really, say, super blissful, I think it does something to the mind. Just like when you're in a daily life situation and you're kind of, I'm just seeing some Singaporean skyline there in the background. So basically you get fed up with the city and the superficiality of the world, the Dhammas there. And then you think of the Buddha, or think of like the Bodhi tree. And actually, even the Buddha looked at the Bodhi tree for a whole week because it just felt that's worthy of like, it's a keeper. I'm not sure he wasn't attached to it, but like he just admired the bliss of liberation, like basically. So that sense of wonder, oh, wonderful, the Bodhi tree, wonderful. Instead of skyscrapers, I can also imagine Bodhi leaves. So I'm not putting down the skyscrapers. We live in this context, and I live in an office. I'm sitting here, not in a shrine room. I'm sitting in the office, and all of us are sitting in front of computers. So we have to make the change of atmosphere by ourselves, incrementally, bit by bit, reserve certain times for that and be able to then get familiar with these qualities such that we possibly can actually feel them, sometimes on the spot, sometimes with a little kind of like nudge into our, say, I don't know what it is, consciousness, subconsciousness, somewhere that where the sanya comes from, I don't know. Like we kind of take it and then make it real. You probably know that this one story of Lompa Kemadamo, of this prisoner that he was teaching. I'm sorry if I tell somebody else's story, but it's a real good one. So this was this prisoner, super criminal and high security, and had no spiritual inclinations at all. And but he heard about the hype of Buddhism somehow, and every 15 minutes they were peeping into this kind of like into his door to see, like in isolation, what he was doing, and he thought he could score some good points if he was just sitting there as if he was meditating. So every 15 minutes he quickly got up and they come to check on him, just pretend you're meditating. And Lompa Kema says, actually it worked. He started getting the hang of it. And then suddenly felt, wow, this is meditation. So this way of like using stuff from the outside, like from the idea of like gotta do something, gotta change something, gotta change my mindset, or like what if I were to recollect something that is like uplifting when I'm down or so. I think it does work, and we might be quoting it first, and that's what recollection is. We use something from some other place and implant it there. Maybe it doesn't always work, but sometimes it can actually really bring about a very different or very deep experience. So I think it's almost an hour, and I thought I'll talk this much, but wanted to ask if anybody would like to raise a topic or ask something, because it feels a bit, I don't know most of you. I've seen some of you before. So, for example, from Germany, Aya Anuvidita, and quite a few. I should scroll down, but if you, I was also warned that the Singaporeans that they don't dare to ask questions. So maybe you can prove the opposite. Is there any question or anything? Or it could also be that you have so much Dhamma input that there's not many questions, and the standard questions sometimes are a bit odd, like like the theoretical ones. I wouldn't be able to answer those anyway. But is there anything you'd like to bring up, just to keep me talking a little longer?
Andamayang Dhammagataya Sadhu Garang Dadamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
Sadhu, that's the proper ending of the formal discourse.
Thank you so much, Thanajan, and thank you for the invitation to open up the floor right now for questions and answers. So I would like to welcome brothers and sisters here. If you have got a question for Thanajan, a comment, please feel free to click on the raise hand button, and we'll invite you to perhaps have an engagement with Thanajan. You said so much today, Thanajan.
I preempted all the questions, sorry.
You said so much today, but I think there's always a very consistent theme in a lot of your Dhamma talk. It's a lot to do with recollection. It's all about strengthening the qualities of practice. Recently I've also heard you speak about the 10 qualities of protection. I think you gave the talk to the monks at Aruna Ratanagiri, and I thought that was really, really very good.
Lists of Dhamma are always a safe terrain. Also for meditation, you can just take those and then just meditate on them, and then basically see what happens. Yeah.
So I think this talk is being recorded for friends here who would like to review and recollect what Thanajan has said. You can always get to YouTube and then download the talk. So I'd like to now invite our friend from Kolkata, Naburan.
Hello. Hello.
Can you unmute yourself? Yes.
Hello, Lupo. So good to see you.
Yes.
Thank you for the Dhamma talk. So my question is, when there is this unwholesome mental states and agitation, uh, we try to uh, find refuge through the recollections and try to develop the wholesome states. But somewhere I also sometimes back of my mind I'm thinking I'm trying to run away from this unwholesome states. Like there's a vibhava tanha that, and yeah, it's easy. I can calm myself. I can do that. But is there also a need for me to look into this feeling and face it? And is it too early? Is it too hardcore? So I don't know whether what way to practice. So if you can just elaborate on
Yes.
that. But
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for asking this because, yeah, obviously, there's like the other part of the practice is just simply being with these feelings. For example, if you feel down and depressed because of the say all the kind of like sadness of the world, kind of, and all the things that are so challenging, and so the other part is a bit like my good friend and elder brother Lompo Munindo says, just to be with that and fully feel it. So this can be also very rewarding, and I believe like the it's also necessary. It's not just that we can just switch to another TV channel, meditation channel. So, and I believe like thank you for mentioning this because it has to be a combination, like feeling what is happening first of all, and say for example you feel exhausted, you feel or like you feel the opposite, maybe super high and restless and kind of jumping to the next activity or so, then I believe there's a decent chunk of effort that goes into really recognizing what is going on and bearing with that. And then basically, like if you then have the idea, okay, let's do anapanasati, may well be a, a dukkha sati to contemplate what you're going through in that moment or what you're experiencing, and then just as a suggestion, sometimes then just to swap to something eventually that you feel gives another perspective on it. So to say, after the acceptance of the whole thing, I'm not saying that like in time frame or so. It can also be just accepting, and then the urge to do something constructive comes on another day even. But there's always a mixture of accepting things and then feeling, say, using them in a wise way. I would say this recollection thing is like a bit going into the wisdom area to see that like okay, there's certain qualities in the world, and they that we're not just passively kind of subject to all these impacts of dukkha, stress in various forms. And so that like is a bit like teaching oneself some skillful means is many times then the bridge again to daily life. Or it could be just simply if you feel through what is happening and you're able to sit with it and still have your breath going and a reasonable amount of dedication to basically not switching off the theme of like possibly, let's say, sorrow and pain, for example, if you've just visited somebody who's sick or so, then or like something unsatisfactory is happening with parents or friends or so, and then you just sit with it for make this like as your main object of experience while breathing, while using the normal anapanasati style of meditation as a way of like relaxing and being present, and then instead of expecting through a certain technique of anapanasati or so, you'll be turning this all into a golden heavenly experience. Then just be with a reasonable amount of relaxation and dedicate yourself to that feeling, that reality. Be in the presence with it, and accept it, And then, just like with when one practices metta, when one says like, I fully want to feel metta, like I don't even want to do anything with it, I just want to feel it. If you feel all the sadness and all the kind of feeling of like dukkha, so to say, I'm pretty sure if you feel it at some point, there will be this feeling. So what, and you rise over it because it's so present that you can only say, oh, I see, this is happening. You kind of like jump to another level of relating to it. And this will suggest itself what you do with it. And sometimes after having then done such a practice of acceptance, then there comes a certain sense of independence or release or being an impartial observer. And then with that feeling of quality of mindfulness then being there, basically, you just want to do some walking meditation, or you just want to make some nice dinner for your friends or so. You get a certain replenishment of energy. So yeah, also okay, and needs to be there. And usually people think, through meditation I can, so to say, subdue Mara, subdue Buddha, subdue dukkha. Yeah? But sometimes we're not quite there, and we use a kind of slightly informative tone of like, and that's why I like the recollections, particularly when the mind is agitated and it kind of can't really sit still. You give it some activity, but if you can, that's fine. And sometimes it's a combination. Sometimes, since we're all very dedicated practitioners, and we're not just practicing one day and that's it, we keep kind of visiting our situation from different angles. So one day it may be just really the right thing to fully feel everything and immerse yourself in that recognition and awareness, mindfulness of this particular state, and then the energy changes. Another day, just the thought of going in there just doesn't really work, and you just look for a nice alternative, do some chanting, and then it works the other way around. Changes your perspective from the.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to now invite the next person, Sue. Wing, can you please unmute yourself? Oops, sorry.
Hello, Paul. Thank you very much. Greetings from Singapore. So you have a question from Singapore here. Okay, thanks to the BuddhaDhamma Foundation, who actually featured one of your teachings. You said that, quote, chanting is something that connects with the timeless quality of Buddha's teaching. So I'd like to seek your enlightenment, Paul, about chanting, because I'm just a novice and I'm actually learning how to chant in Pali, particularly the pronunciation. Like, for example, what I understand is like Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. However, I've also found some resources in YouTube just to ensure that I'm doing it right. Some have chanted this way: Namo Tasse Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. So should I get hung up about that? Because like you say, chanting is something that connects with the timeless quality of the Buddha's teaching. So the notion of chanting it the way that it's supposed to be in Pali, or there is, like, for example, the intention. So what's your thoughts on Paul?
Yes, I'm a German chanter. Basically I've got a very big German accent when I chant Pali, and then there's the Thai accent. Basically, a lot of it is like that. And what you just demonstrated is, I think, the Sri Lankan way of chanting Namo Tassa, which is also probably Sanskrit, Hindi-ish. And so there's no right or wrong with it. And what I feel is more important is that you get a feeling for the words or for the meaning of the thing. For example, it may not mean much to you in the beginning, but after having been around the Buddhist groups and teachings for a while, you suddenly discover more and more words that make sense. It's not that we're suddenly studying Pali, but we have a rough idea of what the whole chant is about. Sometimes we have it in translation, and if we do this parallel, some of it translated, some of it in original, then it creates a bridge between those two. And obviously, when I speak of the timeless qualities of the Buddha, I mean that there is a special feeling of chanting the Pali Canon, I would say, because it's like what we, by all means, like associate with direct speech of the Buddha, whether it's exactly Pali or some other accent of North India at that time, but it's close enough that we have a feeling of, oh, this is the original, and the Buddha is speaking here, or Venerable Ananda is many times speaking, quoting the Buddha, and so these little stories are also around the suttas, and particularly using them as a practice of reciting them, then they become like a good friend, and they feel like this is probably the Buddha's words, basically, and so it's very different than just simply reading them, because there's the atmosphere changes, and there's a certain mindfulness when you project your voice, but it's not a thing in itself that there needs to be a special sound or a special vibration with it. Obviously, it's nice if you're in an echoey place like the Chedi of Wat Pah Pong or so, and everybody likes to chant there, basically. But the Bodhat Wat Pah chant, as beautiful as it is, basically, the acoustics are it's like in a dry library or so. It's not very good for chanting, actually. So there's some uplift if you get a feeling of resonance, vibration, but that's kind of like the acoustics of it. But the idea of using chanting and recollecting the parts that you already understand, or the theme of the chant, for example, if it's the Metta Sutta, or if it's chanting against or like helping a sick person, the Bojjhanga chant or the Gerimananda, even though you might not understand every word or pronounce it correctly, it feels, oh, this is a skillful means that the Buddha gave in exactly this way, and it's even his language. So that's like, I feel like it really has that dimension to bring up a connection of the Buddha. It's like having a photo of the Buddha, or like an acoustic kind of like resemblance, and as good as it gets.
Thank you so for your question. Tanajan, there's a question here from Sally Evi. She's from Indonesia. Her signal is not very strong. Can I please read out her question to you? Okay. The question is, Dear Ajahn, from my understanding, karuna is a wholesome state of mind, but sometimes it can lead to a feeling of helplessness or depression, such as, example, there's only so much I can do, or I can not help everyone. Can Ajahn please offer any tips or advice to overcome such an emotions? Thank you, Anumodana.
Yes, sadhu, sadhu. Also very good question. I know this feeling very much, and this is one of the parts of my own life where I felt I moved away from my original, say, kind of Christian background, to the feeling of, well, the Buddha says you're allowed to start with yourself. So in developing all these qualities, it's perfectly all right to take your time and really feeling the root of the problem, or feeling even the symptoms in yourself. And for example, the suffering that comes, then you can take this in and see it generally as this is suffering. Like if you have an example of some very difficult situation where you weren't able to help, and still then it can resonate with one's own, say, personal wish to work on the overcoming of dukkha, or the abandoning of the causes of dukkha, by having another really very, very tangible example that goes goes to down to the guts, basically. You feel like a sense of overburdening, overwhelming, and that feeling of helplessness, then still it's a feeling, it's still an experience that can uplift the mind to be able to be motivated to see the context of it, or work in terms of Dhamma with it. So it's like the feeling of karuna particularly suggests that one becomes very charitable and does something. That's maybe the difference between metta, but like it's also, the Buddha also says it's a vihara Dhamma. It's a place where you dwell on. And so so many times we tend to be quite a bit of an activist, trying to quickly do something and quickly want to see some results. But we know so much examples from the Dhamma practice that even small things, small gestures, or the right attitude can actually go a long way, even symbolic actions. And say, for example, sometimes it is good just to accept I'm helpless, I can't do anything. For example, if you visit a cancer patient and the days are counted, what can you do? Basically, you can only go back to the feeling of Dhamma. This is Dhamma, this is life, this is old age, sickness, death. This is what the Buddha said is like the Dhamma directly. And then take it back to your own heart and say, okay, maybe we cannot physically heal the person, but if I have an access to how to accept dukkha and let go of the craving of changing things or making it better or so, for example, and dwell in peace with dukkha, basically, maybe even my simple trying to do that will have an effect on the person that is sick, and know that what it stands for, that you come as a good friend in the Dhamma, not good friend in terms of like I'm a doctor, I know another therapy, but like come in the sense of like, okay, I can also accept these things, and I also can let go of the beautiful aspirations and wishes that everybody will have to let go at the end of one's life. So sometimes accepting helplessness or accepting then the feeling of like not being able to do something, that brings us to this acceptance and brings us to a sense of peace with things. And just a slight bit of that, maybe just the right medicine for somebody who's in a difficult situation. So it depends on what one is doing. There are definitely a lot of jobs where people do very, very wholesome actions. I'm thinking of some kind of NGO type of work, possibly in one of the crisis areas of the world, or it could also be fundraising for some very, very good purpose. And there's always more. But we don't know how even little things that are authentic and pure in their intention, or pure in how they fit into the situation, then how much they actually change. Just a little smile, for example. I'm not trying to trivialize like all the say big helping projects, but it's good to know that also just a little thing, a little gesture can also actually really make the day of somebody who's really in agony or suffering, or an act of solidarity, or an act of just kind of like a kind word or so. So we don't have to see this in terms of like the task requires a certain physical, mental, material, project type of setup. In that way, we won't ever be able to kind of fully help everybody. I also believe that's a bit the scope of Theravada, than to say, okay, go back to your heart, and the quality of that's needed is the main thing. If we can develop this only for a snap of a finger, for example, it can go a whole kind of fill up the whole universe, basically. And it's not exaggerated. I think that's one of the similes about metta bhavana. Everybody's quarreling, there's lots of dispute, there's lots of fanatic fascist people everywhere, basically. And there's one person that holds his mind peaceful and still smiles, whether he or she succeeds in convincing the others or not. But it may well be exactly what is needed in such a very, very, very desperate situation. So let's not give up this kind of opportunity or hope that we can actually also do something from our own heart, and it doesn't have to be a full program. And this is true. It will not be enough. Yeah, it's just like one of my own missions in becoming a Buddhist monk, rather than say kind of some other altruistic job in German society, right in the capital or so. I just thought, the Buddha allows you to actually work on yourself. So, sadhu, let's try and do this wholeheartedly. Maybe it does change something for some people.
Thank you, Thanajan. We have got time for one or two more questions. If anyone's got a question to ask, perhaps I'd like to chime in. Thanajan, I've known you for a few years, and one of the great qualities of the spirit that you embody is adaptability. I've seen a lot of that demonstrated in your own bhikkhu life, and your stewardship of Wat Pananachat, and now also assisting Lumpur Liam as well with the hospital development. I think this is something that for lay people like us, adaptability. It is easy as a word to pronounce, but it's not easy to practice. What is your secret, Thanajan?
I guess I like Ajahn Chah's teaching. I think it's the magician of adaptability. Somehow I get inspired by people that I kind of basically can kind of like, kind of possibly even meet some other people that are, everybody's got certain good qualities, and then it has an impact on ourselves. So more or less like a little bit the situation that we're in, where the group in Singapore is like in a context that is not ideal in terms of, it's not a monastery, it's not it's a worldly city and lots of job and money around and so forth. And similarly, Nanachat is a big monastery and lots of people, lots of jobs and money around, basically. So what to do? Like make the best of it, and try to see the good sides and nourish the good things. And I think that like generally Ajahn Chah's Dhamma is a wisdom teaching, and that's so in that sense, obviously, adaptability is that that quality where you actually can see what is happening and not get blinded or attached to a certain way, or it has to be like that. Like I just said, like this, it's like this, to have that awakeness. I really believe that like the amount of training where one has to, so to say, in fast forward, produce certain good qualities can also be very rewarding at the end of one's life, for example. It's not only the quality of standing still and going deep. Obviously, one needs both, and then they kind of feed each other then ideally. But I do believe like at the end of one's life, if one has already practiced quite a bit of like, being adaptable, not making a drama out of something, being able to switch into the next mode, so to say, the next life maybe is a good one. So,
Thank you, Thanajan.
I think we have on the list to do some chanting at the end, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. So
Would be the time?
we have got time to do 2 chants now, Thanajan.
Okay, excellent. So I believe we cannot turn our microphones on and chant together because of the time lapse. But if I just chant and you chant quietly for yourself alone and with microphone muted. Now let us chant the Buddha's words on loving kindness. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and kind and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease, let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, free from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being free from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life, may they soon attain the threefold bliss, and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana. In every kind of birth, may I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled.
Well, in depth and in gratitude deeply to you, Tanajan, for conducting this very beautiful session. It's a very nice, heartwarming gathering together with you. We know you are very, very busy, and it is the Vassa, and I'm very glad that you could spare us this 2 hours this evening. So, in closing, we'd like to now chant the Araham, and Ryan will lead us as we take leave from you, Tanajan.
I'd like to say before that, it's also been a pleasure for me. I'm quite new to this, and it hasn't been all too frightening. So thank you for letting me experience this. It was very nice. And thanks for listening, and hope that we can have many of these occasions, not only myself, but I saw the whole picture of wow, it's amazing here. Sangha Nusati, yeah, so you got a real good crew, and may it all embellish your hearts and bring the Dhamma forth in your lives.
Thank you, Thana Ajahn. And we all are very deeply grateful to you for this session today. And so we will now perform the closing homage to close off the session to pay our respects to Thana Ajahn and the Triple Gem. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Bow. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Bow. Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Bow.
Sadhu, sadhu, anumodhana.
Anumodana sadhu Thana Ajahn.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
Bye bye.